everyone always says that like, oh, okay, make sure you like soak it all in and like enjoy your experience, like especially like at the Olympics and the World Championships. You can hear that, but it's hard to really like internalize that because you're also so focused when you go to a competition like that on your performance, mainly because you're wearing the Canadian kit.
Excellence is about standing, and excellence is a requirement for your dream to come true.
That would probably be elementary school. Every year we would have one track meet. We would train like during recess. I actually was a year too young to join the elementary team, but I wanted to be on that team so bad. Like I just love racing. I love running. I love being competitive. So yeah, they let me join the team 1 year early. And I got to go to the one track meet. It was like an hour and a half away. It wasn't a real track. It's like a cinder track. It was in Terrace, British Columbia, because I'm from like a small town up north called Hazelton. And yeah, there's like some pretty funny pictures. I had like glasses since kindergarten. So I was this like tiny little kid with big glasses and a jersey that came past my knees. Like just this tiny little thing running around the track, like beating the boys. And yeah, that was kind of my introduction to the sport. I would run, we didn't have like shot put, we'd have ball throw. I'd do long jump, I'd do high jump. I would just do every single event because I just love to compete so much.
Was there any like athlete in your family to have that sense of competition so early on, or was it just ingrained into you since you were born?
Yeah, both my parents like did sport like recreationally when they were kids. My dad was like he would run as well, not like competitively or anything. But yeah, I mean, on my mom's side, like my grandpa was big into sports. He was inducted into the Kamloops Sports Hall of Fame because he was big in like volleyball and baseball and like square dancing and golf. Like he did like all kinds of cool sports. So yeah, like my family always loved sports and encouraged me to participate in them. But I didn't have any like professional athletes in my family.
Okay, and did you have like a natural talent then? Because you said you were beating the boys already, and you were 1 year early. Do you have something special that the other didn't have that people could see from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Maybe it comes from being a middle child as well, like always wanting to compete for things, compete for attention, compete
Is
like
that a
within
thing?
the family.
Is that a thing?
I
Because I'm
think
also a middle
so.
child, so
Yeah.
and my girlfriend is as well, so there must be something here.
Yep. I like honestly, I think there is because you're not like spoiled as the baby, but you're not given like all the attention as the oldest sibling. So you're kind of in the middle and you're like always competing for things. So I don't know, maybe there's something to it. But yeah, I always just had this like innate sense of competition. And like I said, growing up in a small town, there's like not a lot else to do other than like play outside and do sports and have fun outside. So I think just from an early age, I grew up like running around, riding our bikes, making up games with like the neighbors. And so, yeah, that's like sports and play were always intertwined for me. And yeah, so I think from a young age, I was just really competitive. And for me, that was fun.
Yeah. Do you said, so my question was track and field, first memory on the track, but were there any other sports that you took very seriously and with that competitive mindset? Or was it already track and field and all the related like disciplines and let's say long jump and all this?
Yeah, I mean, I took everything pretty seriously. Everything that could be a competition to me was serious. We would do one of my best friends growing up, like our sense of fun would be to like who could do the most push-ups or who could do the most pull-ups on the monkey bars. Like we would just turn every single thing into a competition. But yeah, like sports wise, I played like community softball, I played soccer, I played basketball. That was probably my favorite sport. Even into high school, I did basketball all throughout high school.
Basketball. Okay. So we should chat more. When I was saying before we recorded,
Yeah.
we'll keep chatting after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, wrestling even like my small town has a population of like probably 5,000 people.
Okay.
And we have two Olympic wrestlers from my town. One of them got a gold medal and a bronze medal at two different Olympics. That was Carol Wynn. So yeah, I definitely had that like as a role model to look up to. And unfortunately, like our high school didn't have that wrestling coach anymore, so we didn't have an actual wrestling program. But like just in PE class, like I would sign up for PE class every semester in high school that I could, hoping that there would be like a wrestling unit in PE because I thought that was so fun. So yeah, any kind of physical activity that I could participate in, um, I would sign up for.
Nice. And so when did you decide, or when was it decided for you that track that's where you had the most chances of succeeding? You said high school was when you started, competing and beating people and stuff. But yeah, what was that tipping point in that moment when it became more than just having fun and trying to beat the others for fun?
Yeah, well, like coming from a small town, there's I think a little bit more opportunity if you're in an individual sport and if you can succeed in that, just because there's like less of a pool of athletes to draw from. So,
Hmm.
like for example, like a basketball team or a volleyball team, it'll be harder to like get to like the provincial level or the national level with that. And I was drawn to the team sports because I liked the social aspect of it. So I'd always sign up for running, but it was never like my favorite sport. But then the summer of grade 9, um, we had like our provincial, it was the BC Summer Games. And there was a coach in Smithers. That was the closest track to me. It was like 80 kilometers away. And a coach there was, yeah, going to coach a team for that summer event. And I qualified for that. And then that was my first kind of taste of like an actual team of athletes, and I was on like I think I was on the 4x1 relay even. I did the 1500, I did the steeplechase, I did the 800. Like it was so fun, and so that was kind of my first introduction to being on a team and to traveling to a proper track and field meet like that, and not just going individually or by
Hmm.
myself kind of. um, so yeah, after that, every summer I would go back to Smithers and train with that coach. And yeah, I think maybe in grade 10, I stopped doing soccer in the fall, or volleyball, whichever one was like conflicting with cross country, just because it was getting to be too much. And then I did basketball every winter because like up north, it was too snowy to like train outside, and like the thought of running on a treadmill to me was not appealing. So I played basketball and over the winter, and I think stayed like fit with that. And then, I mean, yeah, like I didn't focus solely on running until university, and that's kind of when I got a little bit more serious with it.
And so how does it go about, like, between the moment you say this is what I'm going to be serious about and the moment when you make it to like international races? Did you put your studies aside? Did you was it or was always track like the second objective, and you kept, studying and maybe getting a normal job as normal person as the top one priority? Is there a moment when those objectives shift in your mind and in your daily routine and just daily grind?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, track was always just something that was like kind of fun to do. Obviously,
Yeah.
I took it seriously because I was like having success with it. But like even through university, I like worked a job, I took extra courses. Like, yeah, I didn't really prioritize running necessarily. Like, it was fun, but I also wanted to prioritize like balance in my life. So I made sure that, yeah, like I wasn't sacrificing financially just to run, and I wasn't sacrificing my studies to run. Like, I feel like I did a pretty good job of, yeah, having balance. And then after I graduated university, again, like I didn't want to sacrifice like financial stuff just to focus on running. I maybe it's like my Chinese side, like the immigrant background. I have like a mindset of, okay, like save money, like make sure you're being fiscally responsible. So I worked full time for the Vancouver School Board, and then trained like outside of school hours. And then, yeah, it wasn't until the Olympics, like the year after COVID, that I like decided to like cut down on my work and focus more on just making the Olympics. And luckily, like that small town that I'm from was super super supportive. They like held a fundraiser for me so I could like have training funds. I was sponsored by like a logging company there and an indigenous artist. Yeah, they all helped out a ton to help that like transition for me so that I could just train and not work. And then I've been supported very well by Athletics Canada over the years, like in their developmental tier, like building all the way up to like the international tier. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the switch to like full time running happened until like very recently when I joined the professional team in Flagstaff with Under Armour.
Okay, and how you mentioned Under Armour, but do you have like other sponsors and people helping you in that sense so that you can basically focus on the track? And that what I found amazing so far interviewing athlete is how little people can just live off the sports. Basketball, yes, hockey, yes, at the top level and all that, but most of the other sports you have to get something on the side, and that's when you can have like I won't have the English for it, but bienfaiseur, people just wanting to help, wanting to see you succeed, and being there to support you financially. So yeah, how have you gone about just sponsoring and getting closer to brands and people that's wanting you to do good and being willing to help you?
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, like my small town like supported me so much during that transitional period. And then I would also just reach out to brands on Instagram. Anything like this is kind of like when like the influencer stuff was starting up, like maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. And like for example, I reached out to this company. It was called Thinks. It's period underwear, so underwear that like women wear when they're on their period, and it's just like absorbent. But I had a pair. I'm like, wow, this is a really cool company. I really like it, and it was kind of like a new product, like 10 years ago. So I reached out, and they were like, yeah, like we're just starting like an influencer program, and I was like one of the first 10 people on their like roster. And through that program, with their period underwear and like getting like a commission from sales through my link, that supported me for like a year of training, basically.
Wow.
So kind of random, but I would just reach out to brands like that. And if it was something I believed in and something that I thought actually worked, yeah, then I would try and partner with them. And I was like, yeah, kind of like getting like a electrolyte sponsorship or like a massage sponsorship, and just kind of like hodgepodge, kind of like getting things together. But then I think it was maybe like 2019, the summer of 2019. I was in Portland for a race, and I was on a run with a bunch of the guys on my team, and I'd gotten dropped by all of them. And I was like, oh, there's another guy up ahead, and he looks like he's going about my pace, so I think I'm gonna like catch up to him. So I caught up to him. He was with another guy as well. We started chatting, and he ended up being the shoe developer for Under Armour. And he was a really nice guy, and we got along, and it turned out that my foot was like the right size for their like tester models.
Okay.
So then he started like sending me like tester shoes, and we like built up a relationship through that, and I would like test their apparel and test their shoes. And then eventually my results started getting better, and he connected me with like the sports marketing people. And yeah, then I ended up like signing a professional contract with Under Armour. So that was kind of like random how that happened. But yeah, after I signed with Under Armour, then I've been fully supported by the brand. There's only a handful really of Canadian athletes, I feel like, who are lucky enough to have like a contract that they can live off of. Like for Under Armour, I think it's just me and Georgia Ellenwood are like the only two Canadian athletes even sponsored by Under Armour. So that like chance meeting was actually like so fortuitous for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, chance is you provoke, or you go and get and find chance at some point, right? You met that person because you were brave enough to go and talk to them and all that. So, but yeah. So how does a relationship or a partnership like that go about? You said only two Canadian athlete. Is it because there's not a big enough market in Canada? Is it because they're very picky on the type of athlete and the just the value they stand for, that they are selecting very precisely the athletes, sorry, they work with?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, like, I just think there's not a big enough market. Like track and field is just not that big of a sport in Canada.
Mhm.
Like even in Vancouver, it's like like actual rubberized tracks are like few and far between. Whereas when you go to the States, there's a track at every high school, every middle school, every university. Like the university I went to, Trinity Western, didn't even have a track on campus. So it's just not as prominent of a sport in Canada. And like usually to get a contract as a Canadian, you have to go through like the NCAA system, and kind of gain like notoriety through that. So if you don't, like I did, I stayed in Canada, then it's like even harder to kind of get your name out there. So yeah, it's just a lot easier for Americans, and if you've been in the States, to get a contract.
Nice. So today you said you can live off, I mean, just live around the sport. You don't have to necessarily like get a full-time job, which is again fortunate and rare. So what does a week or a year look like for you? How much would you say for 1 hour of competition? How many hours of training and grind would there be per hour of competition?
Ooh, well, yeah, that's a lot of hours. Like for example, this whole fall, like I've been averaging like almost 150 kilometers a week. So like over 20 kilometers a day of running.
Wow.
We've been, yeah, doing double sessions. So we do a session in the morning, and then we like go back home, rest, have lunch, have some like, yeah, like recovery time, and then like 4 hours later we're back at the track again for like a second workout. um so yeah, there's a lot of, I only raced one time this fall. Like I just raced a 10K in Hawaii, so that was like 3 months of 150 kilometers a week for one race. But obviously I'll start racing more like into the indoor season, and then like outdoors is when it really counts. So you kind of don't want to like overdo things now. And it's just kind of about building base and making sure that you're healthy and in a good position to start like adding in like a little bit more intensity once you get into the new year. So yeah, there's a lot of kilometers, a lot of hours that go into just one race, especially like I race anywhere from like the mile or the 1500 to like the 5K. But like we'll run on Sundays like up to 30 kilometers, which seems crazy when you're only running like 1500 meters on the track. But it's just, yeah, building up that base and getting strong for the outdoor season.
And so what is in all that repetitive cycle of said running around a track or just long distance and all that, what is your silver lining? I think what is that thing that keeps you going, waking up, you train 5 6 days a week all the time, and then you have a competition that might go sideways and that might be very disappointing. So what it is that makes you wake up in the morning and be that excited to run another 20 kilometer?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been pretty well, maybe not lucky is not the right word, but like in my career, I've had not very many lows. Like I've had a few, but like year on year, I've had a pretty steady progression of just I put in the work and the results show at one point or another within my season. So my university coach used to use me in like his presentations, because if you like graph my like personal best progression, it's just like a perfect like upward trajectory. So for me, it's just, it hasn't been too hard mentally to put in the work and go through that process, because year after year I've always like reaped the results of it. Which I know is very, that's like not normal. Like most athletes, it's like an up and down kind of thing, and yeah, they have to kind of like fight through injury. My first injury I ever had was this past year. I fell at our Olympic trials and tore a muscle in my hip, and that's like the first ever actual, yeah, tear or injury I've had in my career. So for me, it's not that hard to just be able to get up every day, put in the work, and know that like that's going to pay off in the upcoming season. Which, like I said, I know I'm like very lucky to have that, and I haven't faced a lot of adversity. But at the same time, I think it's because I'm pretty level-headed, pretty balanced, like I was talking about, and I come from that background of like multi-sport. I think that's really like a good avenue for especially young female athletes, is if they're kind of multi-sport and not focused all in at one thing at a young age. It kind of builds a good base for injury prevention in the future.
Mhm. And you mentioned the pretty linear approach, like your personal best or basically your time going down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, but it's like checking when you look at the stock market, the specific stock, the trend can be like this, but you'll have 3 points that align, but in between 2 points you'll have a few lows and then it goes back, but the trend goes up. But you don't beat your personal best every single race, right? You have a race, then you have times that are not as good, then you have a personal best that is higher, and then you again have times that are, so it's not maybe on the outside, and if that's the way you see it, it's perfect. But the reality is that maybe you have a race personal best, then the next 5 races are below, but then the next one is still higher. If you zoom in, there are lots of like ups and downs, or smaller ones, not big injuries or big failures, but lots of small stuff. But then the next one, and you seem to see it on the very positive end, which is, well, overall, if I look back on my first time when I was in high school, then college, and all that, it's just overall being
Yeah.
quote unquote constant progression, right?
Yeah, and actually you're right. Like it's a very like glass half full kind of mentality I have. And I am very good at like kind of like glazing over the things that don't quite go my way. And maybe that's why I've been in the sport for so long as well, and being able to make like national teams year after year, is because I'm bad at remembering the negatives. And that's probably also good
Good
for
trait,
training. It's, yeah.
good personality trait.
Yeah. I mean, even like for workouts, yeah, like I don't remember. We do lots of the same workouts like year after year, but I never remember like how painful they are or how hard they are. So that's probably a good thing, because I'm never really like scared to do a workout, or necessarily that nervous, because I think I forget like how hard it is. So yeah, that's probably a beneficial trait to have for this sport.
Nice. Uh, a bit of a more technical question. So you said that you run from the 1500 meters to 10,000 meters, which are long distance or considered long distance, if I understand correctly. But in the middle, there is that one discipline that when we type your name on Google, that's the one that shows up, the 3,000 meters steeplechase. What is it about that race that makes it different than the others? There's that hurdle and the pond. I don't have the English for that. Sorry, but the water part. So yeah, is there a history that you know and that I don't know about, like this 3,000 meters steeplechase, and what is the impact of those two like hurdles in the middle of the race compared to a 1,500 or like a 5,000 meter that are lower and higher distance?
Yeah. Okay. So like the steeplechase started from like people on horseback, and they would be racing like across fields, and like it's called steeplechase because they would like see like a church steeple in the distance, and the okay, first one to
Okay.
get to the steeple like wins. And they'd be jumping over like fences over fields, and there'd be like irrigation ditches like filled with water. So that's where like the pond comes from. And I guess at some point they're like, well, if horses can do it, like why can't people? I don't know. I don't know how that like transition happened, but I first was introduced to that in high school, and I'd never seen a water barrier. I'd never seen that race run before, and it was at like our zone championship. We were up north. No one else was in the race, so my coach was like, if you do it, you're going to win automatically because there's no one else entered. So like right before the race, I did like a few practice jumps like over the hurdle. I couldn't hurdle it. I would just step on the barrier because like for steeplechase, I don't know if you've like seen a steeplechase race, but the barriers are like solid. Like if you hit the barrier, you're
Yeah, you
going down,
fall.
not the barrier. It's not like a hurdle. So and yes, I'd learned to just to like step on the hurdle or the barrier and keep going. So yeah, I did that and I broke the zone record. So in my head, I was like, oh, maybe I'm actually like good at this. Like I have like, yeah, like just a talent for this weird random event. So every year I would do it. Every year I got better at it. I didn't practice it because we didn't have barriers or hurdles at my high school. But yeah, I think it comes from that same just inner competitiveness, and I really like a challenge. So having that just seemed like kind of a badass event, and like that seems like a fun challenge. So yeah, I was drawn to it and just continued doing it every year. Kind of just fell into it, and it like opened up so many doors, like scholarship offers and yeah, chances to be on provincial teams, national teams. I got to travel all over the world. So that kind of just grew my love for it, and I have continued on with it since.
Nice. And on the spectator side, it looks more spectacular in the sense that there is a bit more happening. It's not as plain and simple as the 400, 800, 1500, where you just run. Here there are those obstacles. And physically, does it impact or your pace, the fact you have to jump above the barrier, then like into the water and all that? Is that also the big challenge with that discipline, that it basically impacts you, raise your pace, and then you have to reaccelerate and all that? Is that what makes it so like spectacular also?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's like a certain amount of drama to it, especially like around the water pit, because generally there's going to be like some kind of fall or accident around that. Because especially when you start getting tired, it's hard to like jump 33 inches and then into water and keep going. But yeah, you have to learn to pace yourself. You have to also learn to be able to, yeah, like your rhythm is constantly getting broken. It's not like in a 5K where you can just lock into a pace and go. You have 35 barriers that you need to be able to clear during this 3 kilometer race. But to me, also, it's kind of like a mental break because you're kind of just thinking about getting over the next barrier, the next barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the race does go by actually quite fast. But yeah, this past season actually was probably my like tough. It's the first season I think that I didn't PB in the steeplechase, and it's also the first season where like I actually had things go wrong in the water pit. Like when I was in China this year, I crashed into a girl. She was just like dying, but I was also dying, and I couldn't like. I saw her like kind of just stop in the steeplechase in the water pit, and I was too tired to like navigate around her, so I just like crashed right into her as well, pushed her out of the water, and then we kept going. Then at another race later in the season, someone stepped on my shoe in the water pit, so I lost a shoe. And then it's really hard to like keep going around the track and like hurdle things with only one spike on. So I ended up dropping out of the race then. And then yeah, Canadian Nationals, I slipped because yeah, your feet get wet every lap, and
Yeah.
with maybe like 2 water jumps to go, I slipped off the water barrier and then like fell and tore a muscle in my hip. So yeah, there's like a lot of drama kind of in the race, and I think that just makes it more exciting.
Nice. So, so what's next for you? What is it that you're looking forward to in the next, well, year, let's say, in the next couple of years?
Yeah, well, I mean, next year there's a lot going on. There's like the World Championships are happening in Tokyo, and that would be really cool to go back to Tokyo because I was there for the 2020 Olympics, but I mean, it was the COVID Olympics, so
Yeah.
we couldn't even like we were there for a training camp beforehand, but we weren't even allowed outside like the front doors of the hotel. We weren't allowed to use like the elevators in the hotel. Like we had to use a special service elevator. Like everything was very, very
Yeah.
restricted because of COVID. And like you couldn't leave the Olympic Village. You had to wear a mask. You were like quarantined to your little cubicle in the dining hall. So it was like cool to be there, but I just didn't get like a real like experience of Japan.
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool to go back there this year. And as I get older and like do more of this like international competition, I've like learned to like book a few days on the end of the trip or something like that, so you can actually like enjoy the city or the country where you're in. Like the first few years, I would just go for the race, focus on the race, and then leave and kind of miss out on like experiencing like yeah where I am. So there's that. There's like the World Road Running Championships, which are in San Diego. That would be cool to go to. There's World Indoor Championships in China. So yeah, there's a lot going on next year. A lot of like little minor goals. But yeah, I think I would just like to get my training on track and be healthy and have some PBs next year.
Nice. And you already think of what will be next once you'll be done with your career, running career? Are you already, or have you already put some thought into what will your life be after that?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Right now I'm kind of like renegotiating. My contract ends at the end of this year. So I'm kind of renegotiating that and we'll see where I end up with that. If I can get another contract with Under Armour and stay training with the team that I'm with now, then I would like to like continue on for another Olympic cycle, try and make LA in 2028. if not, like, I guess we'll see. But I have one more year of my education degree to complete. So originally I'd wanted to be like a high school teacher, like math and science and social studies. So yeah, that's an option. Could go back and finish that. Like the government of Canada has this like program for every year that you're funded. I think like up to 5 years, they'll give you like money towards going back to school and finishing a degree.
Oh, nice.
Um, so that'd be super helpful. And but yeah, I mean, I haven't put too much thought into it. I have a lot of like support systems in place, like with family, and game plan is like a sports organization that will help you transition like once you're done with the sport. But hoping to not have to think about that for another couple of years.
Nice. Well, I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. If you were to meet 10-year-old Regan and you had 20 seconds with her, what would you tell her?
Ooh. Yeah, maybe that yeah, maybe to everyone always says that like, oh, okay, make sure you like soak it all in and like enjoy your experience, like especially like at the Olympics and the World Championships. And like you can hear that, but it's hard to really like internalize that because you're also so focused when you go to a competition like that on your performance, mainly because you're wearing the Canadian kit, you know? Like there's a difference between wearing like your regular racing stuff and then putting on the Canadian uniform. Like that
Mm-hmm.
to me just puts on like a whole different layer of pressure because I feel like I'm racing for a lot more than just myself. And I haven't always been good at dealing with that. Like to me, that's so much pressure. And when it's like, yeah, when it's any other race, and it's just like the pressure I'm putting on myself, I can handle it. But then when I put on that Canadian jersey, it's a whole nother level. So I think I would start from a young age if I knew that I was going to be making these competitions, to be telling myself that like people, yeah, obviously it's great to perform well, but at the end of the day, you just need to do your best. Like if you don't make that final, it's not the end of the world. If you, yeah, if you don't hit that target, and as long as you have done your best and tried your hardest, people are still going to be proud of you. So I, yeah, probably try and take the pressure off of young Regan a little early on.
And would she listen as you
I don't
remember
know because
yourself
she was pretty
10 years old?
competitive. She was pretty
Okay.
competitive at 10 years old, so I don't know if she would actually listen.
Well, at least you tried.
Yeah.
Um, who's one athlete you know that you think has a great or interesting story to tell that you think would be good to hear on the podcast?
Have you ever spoken with Cameron Rogers?
Nope.
Okay, so she's gold medalist now in the Olympics in the hammer throw. Um, she's younger than me. She's from BC as well, though. But I worked for BC Athletics for a bit with her coach's wife at the time. He's since passed away, but her original coach, I worked with his wife, and she would like rave about like Cameron and her work ethic and her story. And like I believe she got into the sport just by like walking past a practice, seeing hammer throw happening, and being like curious and asking to just join in. And I think that's such a like I love that. I think that's so cool. Like she was a self starter. She was brave enough to just like ask about like what is this weird sport? It's like a yeah chain with a hammer on or a ball on the end. And well, a wire, I guess technically. But anyways, she's a really cool athlete, and I think her story is really incredible. I've roomed with her at like a few international meets. I was rooming with her this year at the Olympics, and she just has such a cool mindset. And yeah, she's a great person.
Perfect. So I'll try to reach out. I already typed in her name
Perfect.
on Google, not to forget.
Okay,
Awesome.
great.
Last question. So it's the recurring one. As you see behind me, I have a wall where I have a few gears from. You'll see a few people from track and field. Is there anything, maybe like a used pair of spikes from Under Armour, whatever it might be, that you could give away for the wall and the room of sports?
Yeah, definitely. I probably even have like a singlet as well that I could send you. Like
What's that?
a singlet,
My
like
English
the
is a
things
bit.
that we race in, like the little crop top
Okay.
for like Team
Yeah.
Canada, or a pair of Under Armour specs. I'll look at what I have. I'll let you know.
Whatever it is. So that will be great. And once Post Canada decides to Canada Post, sorry, decides to stop their strike, then I'll
Yeah.
send you some sort of a package or anything to make it easy.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. What can we wish you? I think you said what you're targeting and eyeing for the next years, but what can we wish you in the next few months?
Yeah, let's hope for sub 920 in the steeplechase. I have actually an article on I'm at my yaya's house right now, my grandpa, and I can see an article on his fridge right now from like about 8 years ago that says like a quote about me wanting to run like 918 or faster. So I've been slowly working my way towards that. So let's hope for that this year.
Sweet. All right. So we wish you this and all the very best. Thank you. Thank you so much, Regan, for your time. I'll see you on TV, hopefully, in the next big world event, and hopefully see you break that 920.
Awesome. Thanks, Leo.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.